Hi, stamping friends. It's Sherry Parker coming to you live on Wednesday, January 28th. Hope you're having a great week. In Ohio, we've been digging out of a foot or more of snow the last couple of days. So had some time this weekend to do some crafting, which also includes the project that I'm making tonight. So can't wait to share that with you. And before I get started with that, I'm going to make a couple quick announcements. Right now, product of the month. This is the January product of the month, a great stamp set. And it's yours for $5 with a $75 order. Secondly, bonus days, a few more days until February 2nd that you can collect coupons to spend in February. So for every $50 you spend from now until February 2nd, you will earn a $5 coupon that you can spend on an order next month, and there's no limit. They just accumulate. So great time to stock up. Last thing I want to mention is that starting February 3rd, Stampin' Up! Has a great joining offer. So if you've ever thought about being a demonstrator, this might be a good time to think about it. So there is a new stamp positioner. I just got this literally a few minutes ago. I took it out of the bag and I haven't even really put it together or played with it. But I wanted to mention that because it's only available for demonstrators. So if you're a current demonstrator or if you sign up between February 3rd and March 2nd, I think it is, then it'll automatically be included in your kit. Thanks, Sheila. Appreciate that. So it's the only way to get it right now. Not to say that in the future you won't have the opportunity to order it, but if that's something you want to get your hands on, this would be a great time to sign up if you're not already a demonstrator. Okay, a couple other announcements. Stamp Camp, February 21st. Susie Brunk and I are having our annual Stamp Camp. And we have a morning session, 8:30 to 11:30, and an afternoon session from 12:30 to 3:30. We still have a few spots left. Let us know. It's $50 to attend. You make 18 cards, $55 if you want envelopes included as well. And last but not least, I'm having a kit together on Thursday, February 5th. So that's actually next Thursday. But you come, it's very casual. You can make the kits here. You can take like cash and carry, take them with you. They are $30 for one, $25 each if you buy two, and then $20 a piece, 3 or more. So it's great. Those are awesome, awesome kits, and I've got a lot of the new ones too. So, all right, enough of that. I'm gonna turn my camera over and we'll get started. I'm loving the new spring mini catalog. I've been showing it here last several weeks, and just some really, really pretty products in this spring mini. So tonight we are going to be featuring this beautiful, lovely, and beautiful sweet collection. This is one that caught my eye the second I saw it. One of the first products I ordered when we had the opportunity to place orders for it. So beautiful. There's actually two bundles, 2 stamp sets and die cut bundles in this suite. There's embellishments, ribbon, and this gorgeous paper, the lovely and beautiful 12 by 12 paper, which I have made so many really pretty projects with that paper. So those are the main products we're using tonight. Here are the stamp set and the dies, sorry, not embossing, from one of the bundles that's in that suite. We're not using the dies tonight, but we are using the stamp set. And then we're also going to be using the Everyday Arches dies. So this is the card we're making. And I have to say that, we had this big snowstorm, and I was waking up, I guess it was Saturday night into Sunday, and just to check the snow. And I sometimes that's when like the creativity starts coming, and I'm like, I really want to do a watercolor card of some kind. And this just kind of popped in my head, and then I got up Sunday morning and I made it. And I really like how it turned out, and I hope you do as well. Really easy technique. It is watercolor, except you don't really have to be an artist. So we like that. All right, to get started, let me show you some of the supplies we're using. We'll be using the watercolor paper. Stampin' Up! Carries this watercolor paper in our product lineup. They're like 5 by 7. I cut this one down to 4 by 5. So we'll be using watercolor paper, a piece of Very Vanilla cardstock for the card base. And then that lovely and beautiful designer series paper that I mentioned, we'll be using that as well. Okay, so the first thing we're gonna do is, because if you remember, I think I have so much stuff on my table, it's hard to leave the card on there, but I have this strip here. And if you think about, like, if you were painting a room and, you know, you tape off your baseboard, it's kind of the same thing. We're just gonna tape that off and then we'll stamp on it later. To do that, you can use like painter's tape, or I have washi tape here. So I'm gonna just put a piece of it right there in the middle. And that's gonna be where our greeting will live later on, okay? So really the fun part is you can kind of create your own design. You're gonna wanna use a permanent ink. I've selected the Jet Black Stays On ink here. And the reason is you're gonna be using a lot of water with your ink refills to create the coloring. So you wanna make sure that whatever you use won't bleed. So I'm using Stays On. And I gotta stand up when I do this. I'm just going to put a leaf right there. Hi, Felicia. I'm gonna put a leaf over here. And then I have a little flower piece that I will ink up with black as well. And I'm going to just kind of angle that one over here like this. I'm just filling in the space, as you can see. No real rhyme or reason. And then if you want, like if you have a few little holes like I do, I'm just gonna ink up a couple of the leaf points and just fill it in. Okay, so, you know, get it to how you want. This is really your background, so I wouldn't be too worried, you know, about having it be perfect. You can see that some of my black is a little heavy-handed and then it's a little bit light, but I think it'll be fine once you start doing the painting. So I'm gonna use a couple different paintbrushes. I'm gonna use this kind of flat one to create a water background. So if you've ever done any watercolor painting, that is the secret. You wanna get your paper nice and wet, and that's why watercolor paper is great for this versus just our normal cardstock, which might warp, bend, tear, that kind of thing. So I've wet the background, and now I'm gonna take a smaller brush here, and you've probably done this or seen it done. I'm gonna pour a little of my ink refill into the lid of my ink pad. This is Peach Pie. And I'm just going to put a little bit of color in my background. Don't worry about seeing in the lines. This is free flow, it's watercolor. And that's what I love about this kind of painting, because it's not really precise. Although some artists do very realistic, almost photographic looking watercolors. I've always been more of like an impressionist type of painter. So I've got some pretty in pink here as well. We're gonna just fill in, create just some, you know, just a hint of color in the background, just to give it a little bit of interest. Not necessary that you have to do this, but I like giving it a little bit of pop. Next, I'm going to work on my leaves. I have Old Olive ink, same idea, where I've used my ink re-inker to create my palette, if you will. So, you know, if you have watercolors and you prefer using those, of course. But if you have re-inkers, why not use those? Get multiple uses out of them. And I'm just laying down a little bit of color, not really worried about seeing in the lines, just kind of putting some hints of green in there. And then I'm gonna go directly on top of that. I've got some garden green, so you can even add a little bit of highlights if you wanted, just little touches, and they'll spread, and that's what you really want it to do, so it looks watercolory. So I really think this is a fun technique, and again, any kind of stamp would work with this. I just happen to use some of the new products there. All right, so now we'll move on to the little little flower buds, and I've got fresh freesia, and I'm just putting little dabs. Oh, Felicia, you got to try it. This is not, what could possibly go wrong? That you don't like what you painted, then you can throw it away. I actually did watercolor paint when I was younger. Not so much anymore now. It seems like I don't make the time for it, but I just have always loved, because again, it doesn't have to be precise. So I think that's what I like most about it. So anyway, you can fill it in as much or little as you want. I'm going to kind of pretend I'm done here, which I think I've got enough color on here. So typically I would probably just set it aside and let it dry, but I am going to try to speed it up just for the video here. And I'm gonna use my heat tool, just let it dry for just a minute. And when I feel like it's dry enough, I'll pull this tape up, because if you think about when you're painting your house or whatever, you know, you don't want to pull the tape up and then it pulls the paint up or the paint oozes underneath it, right? So we're going to pull up the washi tape, and voila, there's a nice line, and it'll be the perfect spot for our greeting. But before we stamp a greeting, I showed you my Everyday Arches dies, and I thought this would be so pretty cut out into a fun shape. And then we'll go ahead and stamp, and we'll try to center it so that we do it right. So I'm gonna go ahead and run this through my Stampin' Cut die cut machine. And that way, I won't shake the table if I'm over to the side here. But I am actually running it through. And then you'll simply just pop it out. So, isn't that fun? So next, and we're almost done here, I'm going to, on these little buds, you can add a little bit of dimension if you wanted to use your Stampin' Blends or markers or something, and just kind of go in there, and it'll help let them pop a little bit. So I thought that would be nice. And then one other touch before we finish. Who likes Wink of Stella? That is one of my very, very favorite accessories. So I'm gonna use a little Wink of Stella just to give it a little bit of glimmer. And who doesn't like a little bit of shimmer? So it's probably hard to see on the camera, but it's got a little shimmer on there. Okay, last step here before we wrap up the card is one of the greetings in that stamp set is Simply the Best. I like it because it's skinny, and sometimes, you know, you just want a smaller greeting. See if I can get this straight. And stamp that right in the middle, and essentially you're done, right? So I'm gonna pull over my other card pieces. Make sure I don't get black ink on it. And I'm gonna use the green side just because I think it complements the leaves that are in this pattern that we've created. So I hate to cover up that pretty gold, but sometimes we've got to do that. And remember, if you comment on or share my projects each week, your name is automatically entered in to win the projects that I make each week. So at the end here, I'm going to be drawing for last week's cards. So, all right, I'm going to put some dimensionals on, and I'm going to put a few more than normal because watercolor paper is a little bit heavier if you've ever worked with it. And I just want to make sure that we get this to stay down nicely here. And I'm going to center it just like this. And then really the final touch is we have this real pretty faux velvet trim, and it's the fresh freesia color, and I thought how pretty would that be just right there on front. So let me put a dab of glue. Oh goodness, this is happening again. This happened a few weeks ago. Well, since my glue seems to be a little bit persnickety, we'll use a glue dot. So I'll just put a little glue dot down and put my ribbon. So isn't that really elegant? I feel like it's elegant, and I don't really have any gems or anything like that because I don't think it really needs it. So anyway, I really liked it, and I hope you do as well. And of course, again, if you comment on or share it, this card might be yours next week. But just to show you a couple other things. So remember how I was telling you to use permanent ink. So this one, the first, I wanted to show you what would happen if you didn't, okay? So you see how it smears? You don't want that, so don't do that. And then maybe you're a little apprehensive about the watercoloring. Thanks, Cindy. And I get it. So I did this one where I used Post-it note and I blocked off a little bit bigger area because I had a larger greeting. And I did the same thing where I stamped the leaves and the flowers. And then I colored in with my blends. I colored in the leaves and the flowers. And so you get the same type of effect. I just think it's more dramatic with the watercolor. But I think this is pretty as well. And it's the same kind of idea. All right. So I'm going to draw for last week's card. We made these two cards using the Nature Walk Suite. This is new in that same mini catalog I showed you. And we used both the positive and the negative space. We cut out that one leaf shape and then we made two cards. No waste. Love that. And everyone who commented on and shared, your name is in here. So the first one right here is Cheryl Brunn. This card is for you. And then our second winner will be Jennifer Gilbert. Jenny lives in Florida. So we're really jealous of you right now because we're under all this snow. So thank you to everyone, of course, who watches and comments and shares each week. And I really do appreciate you. And I hope to see you soon. Please contact me if you're interested in any of my events. You can go to my website at sherrythomas.stampinup.net. Everything is listed on my calendar as well. And you can always reach out with questions if you're interested in the joining special, the really cool stamp positioner, and I will play around with it in the next week and maybe show you something with it next time, but didn't have time tonight. So, all right, thanks again. Have a wonderful rest of your week, and I hope to see you soon. Take care. Goodbye.